Okay, I'm in Disney World. I want to go on the Bugs Life ride and hug the crap out of Mickey Mouse. I need a topic I haven't done in a while and I can get done really quickly. Kitty, I know you're on vacation, but why not do a video on Brian's son? I mean, you did want to do it last December. True, very true. It's been like 5 months.
Yeah, that parent-child relationship is so special. But you just gotta give them the biggest hug you can and let them know that you'll always be there for them. How's your son, Brian? We don't talk, but...
Alright, let's do this. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about Family Guy. Or more specifically, Dylan Flanagan. Brian's son, not Griffin. This is important, guys. And yes, Brian, the dog, has a human son who is a teenager and not a baby that he didn't know existed. Even if he's a dog and ages in dog years, which aren't really dog years, they're a myth, since dog years aren't what you actually think they are.
You know what, Stewie? If you don't like it, go on the internet and complain.
Brian, that's what this entire video is. And honestly, I'm surprised Dylan never has any dog-like traits like ears he hides with a wig or something, but eh. Anyhow, I took your advice and I went on the internet to make this video and complain. Now, Family Guy, if you couldn't guess by the title, is a show all about families. Duh. And with families in sitcoms, especially animated sitcoms, they tend to always follow the same formula, especially with fathers. Idiots, anger-prone, all that jazz. And while Brian's family isn't always shown, that doesn't mean Brian isn't always a dad. A theme with my Brian Griffin videos has been that Brian went downhill, and probably the worst out of all of the Griffins, as even if Peter, Stewie, and Lois really fell like Lucifer, they were still pretty funny. But one of the biggest ways Brian fell was the way he approached fatherhood, for as you see, Brian Griffin is a father. A bad father. To his son, Dylan Flanagan. Again, why is he not a Griffin? Because would you want to be associated with this guy? But we will get there when we get there. So let's discuss. We first learn about Dylan in the episode Former Life of Brian. Ironic he didn't appear in the actual Life of Brian episode. Not the best Monty Python movie.
I'm a girl! I don't even like the good Monty Python sketches!
Meg word does not speak for me. But Brian is with Stewie at a random kid's birthday party, which isn't going so well.
What happened to your face?
I'm a kitty cat. Stupid face painters apparently never heard of Darth Maul.
Aw, cats. Darth Maul is the best kitty cat, I presume. I know like nothing about Star Wars. But count yourself lucky, Stewie. My mom had me early, so whenever I went to birthday parties for people who weren't either family or family friends, they were always at least a decade younger than me. Imagine being 14 and being the oldest kid at a 5-year-old's birthday party. Without fail, every time. Where was she finding my friends? But like Mr. and Mrs. Stewie, one good thing seems to come out of the party. For Brian, not for Stewie, poor kid. Brian meets one of the moms, who, like Carmen from Mr. and Mrs. Stewie, is unnamed.
Wait, hang on a second. Who's that?
That's Jared's mom.
Because at the end of the day, she's just a warm body for Brian to claim as part of his bank account. Rats, I gotta put my uber important nicknaming skills to the test. Okay, I'm at a loss. Like, I'm torn between either calling her Jane or Stella. Okay, you know what? Her name is gonna be Stella Jane. Even if that sounds like a porn star name, Brian is smitten by Stella Jane, and the possibility her SO might not be in the picture.
No, wait, he was either wounded or killed. I don't remember.
Well, which is it, Stewie? Wounded or killed? I can work with either.
No, he's dead. He's dead.
Thankfully, he's as dead as the Pink Panther.
He won't burn in hell, thanks to all that Owens Corning fiberglass insulation.
I feel super upset I didn't get that reference until recently. I didn't know he was like a mascot or some crap. Stella Jane makes small talk with Brian and says that she enjoys magicians. Even Chris Angel. I heard he sucks as a person.
I don't know why, but I've always found magic very sexy.
I'm a magician.
You are?
Well, you sure are quick, Brian. And I'm sure you're not the first woman to tell him that.
I used to work with Doug Henning.
Wow.
Yeah, want to see my Doug Henning?
Welcome to the wonderful world of magic. Hope I don't get AIDS.
I don't know who that is. Like, legitimately, I don't know. Older, more experienced viewers, I rely on you to tell me about these obscure cultural references, like you did with Denise Crosby. I really didn't know any of that. Stella Jane tells Brian her son is having a birthday party next week, and invites him to perform. Brian practices magic as much as he can, but he finds he's not very good at it.
This is your card, Stewie.
Really, Brian? Card tricks? That's what's gonna close the deal with this woman?
Well, yeah, why not?
He's not even a magician when it comes to the ladies, unlike Quagmire. Stewie offers to help Brian with his magic by being his Fizzarolli, i.e. his special assistant, because I'm 100% sure that Ozzy's based on a Vegas magician mixed with a fire twirler.
And we'll put on a whole big show.
Really?
Yeah, we'll do all the great tricks. You can even split me in half.
What?
Saw me in half.
Stewie, Brian has never split anything or anyone in half or done that trick correctly. Apologies towards shattering your precious little dream world. Brian goes to the birthday party as the amazing Brian. Totally creative. With Stewie dressed as Desiree. Ooh, is he going out with Lee afterwards to celebrate?
Are we doing this thing or what? Brian? Brian?
Stella Jane and Paul thank Brian for coming and doing it. Wait a second, kitty. Who the effing F is Paul? I don't know. Maybe it's Paul Wesley. You know he went to Rutgers. And I go to Rutgers. It's so much fun.
Paul, my boyfriend. Paul, this is Brian.
Boyfriend?
Oh, Paul is her boyfriend. Sorry, Brian. Looks like you got friend-zoned. I feel your pain.
I'm unemployed, but that makes her feel useful in the relationship.
I'm gonna fix him.
Our relationship will do fine on that basis.
If he had it together, I wouldn't be into it.
But I don't.
I know this is a joke, but like I said in my Stewie is Incenti review, don't go into relationships with the goal of fixing somebody. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I'm just making sure to cover all of my tracks. That never works. All it does is put you into a toxic, unfair position. Watch the South Park episode I did on Heidi and Corbin for more info on why. Okay, boo? Brian is upset he spent a fudge load of money on trying to get into Stella Jane's pants.
I paid $800 for all this crap. You have a boyfriend?
Which, that's your own damn fault. Stewie suggested you could have reused stuff.
In fact, you can use Peter's cape from last year's Halloween costume.
Brian tells Stewie he wishes he was able to pick up a woman permanently, because he did have success in the past. Outside of all those other episodes where he did bag a woman but did something stupid to lose her. He tells Stewie that kinda like Quagmire and Cheryl Tiegs, he has the one who got away, and that was a woman named Tracy Flanagan.
Tracy Flanagan. She was the greatest girl I ever met, and I blew it.
Oh, you should look her up.
Oh, am I boring you?
No, it's just long day.
Ooh, sounds like a cute name. Cuter than Stella Jane. Unfortunately, Brian blew it off because of reasons. I'm guessing he only thought about getting in her pants considering what he did here and what he tells her in the flashback.
It happened on numerous occasions and I was too afraid to tell anyone because I felt like somehow it was my fault.
So, you do go all the way.
Wow, what a jerk. Stewie tells Brian to go for it, even if he screwed up in the past, and he might screw up again. But come on, man, Act 1 is slowly coming to a close. So he tracks down Tracy and discovers...
Tracy?
You know what? Maybe Tracy is hiding behind that Jabba the Hutt in a tank top.
Wow, you sure look different than the last time I saw you.
Yeah. Haircut.
Granted, I do wonder what happened to her. Like, obviously, it's a funny reveal, I like it, but I'm surprised they didn't say something like she started overeating after Brian broke her heart or something like that. But oh my god, it's the voice of Lily's smoking voice, Harvey Fierstein.
Hello, I'm Harvey Fierstein. Let's put a baby in you.
That's like my favorite BoJack joke. Brian is ready to scram until Tracy says she wants him to meet somebody. What, did she name a dog after him?
Brian, this is Dylan. He's your son.
Oh, that explains it. Brian was too drunk to wear a rubber, and now he has a lifelong responsibility. And Tracy was so stressed that she did nothing but smoke and drink.
Oh, no way! Jerry! Jerry! Jerry!
but considering her behavior, I'm surprised she never went after him for child support. I mean, Dylan's a teenager. Imagine how much money this chick is owed.
Say, Brian, now that I think about it, how can you possibly have a 13-year-old son?
Yeah, imagine 13 years worth of money, even if he looks more like an 18-year-old than a 13-year-old. Surprised that wasn't a reveal, like Tracy had a kid with somebody else and just lied and said it was Brian's kid. Not nitpicking, I'm just surprised they never did anything with the concept of Dylan having a dog for a father. Like if he has a keen nose or something like that, or like I said above, he has a tail he keeps hidden. Is it like BoJack where you're born one species or the other? To Brian's shock, Dylan isn't anything like him. He's got long hair, he's mean, and he smokes like a chimney. Oh, I guess outside of the first thing, he's exactly like his father. But Dylan is a juvenile delinquent you'll probably see on A&E one day, and a human.
So, Dylan, shouldn't you be in school?
I don't know.
It's Wednesday.
Up yours!
Brian gets the heck out of Dodge and goes back home, where while the Griffins understand why he did it, they say he should at least take responsibility, or be there for his son now that he knows he actually has one.
I don't know, Brian. Raising a child is a very rewarding experience.
Was it for you, Lois? Let's be real here. Then they discover somebody at the door.
Dylan! What are you doing here?
My mom wanted me to give you this.
To Brian from Tracy. He's your problem now.
Oh, he's like a stray puppy. Oh, I guess he is like a dog in a way. And I guess Tracy is pretty bitter. And I guess Brian's kind of like Quagmire in a way. Remember that one episode where Quagmire opened his front door and saw a baby in a basket? This tiny scene is amazeballs when it comes to overanalyzing. Okay, back to the episode. Dylan now has to stay with the Griffins because they can't just call like CPS, and he's going to stay in Stewie's room.
Where's he gonna sleep?
He could sleep in Stewie's room. Would you like that, sweetie?
No, my pants just got shorter because I hated the idea.
Ooh. No, I don't mean it like that. I just feel like it's the best idea. Meg is a girl, Chris is too idiotic for his own good, and Dylan would probably take advantage of that to bully him. And they share the same voice actor, so that would be hell on Seth Green's throat. Stewie is the only one who would be able to hold his own against Dylan if he tried anything, which actually does happen at one point.
That's something that interests you, my friend?
You're weird.
Yeah, and you're attractive. Now take your pants off!
I'm out of here.
Did you see that, Rupert?
But as all Dylan sees is a baby, I guess he probably wouldn't do anything bad besides ignore Stewie. Because you're really low if you mess with a baby, even if you know it's not an evil genius with plans of world domination. Plus, his room is arguably the largest out of all of the Griffin children. They could just put a sleeping bag or a cot in there and they'll be fine. Brian introduces Dylan to Chris, who actually does something nice for him.
But be careful opening the closet, cause that's where the evil monkey lives. Yay! I haven't been in my closet for years!
Wow, I should make a video on this guy. However, while he's nice to Chris, in a way, he's angry to everybody else, especially PETA.
Something on your mind, son?
Shut up, dude! You're just a fat old...
Well, not to get technical, sir, but you are the...
Aw, come on, Dylan. As a fellow bastard, we do indeed have privileges. Like it's our word, not theirs. The Griffins get tired of Dylan and his antics, and tell Brian to rein him in, or they're sending him to one of those special illegal camps in Montana, where they use creepy, vibrating ficus plants to turn you emo. Brian agrees after this happens.
Oh, thanks, Lois. Dylan put this paper bag on my head, and I could not for the life of me figure out how to get it off.
Ooh, darkness. No, darkness. Brian tries to kick Dylan out, and in the process...
My pot! Your pot?
Yay! Now you can bond via making cookies together! But don't do chocolate chips because it'll kill your daddy. But I guess Dylan is more like his daddy than I thought. They bond via drugs, the best method, next to shooting guns. And after Dylan gives some constructive criticism of Brian's stupid novel, Brian apologizes. The pair make up and Brian swears he'll be a better father to Dylan going forward, while Dylan swears he'll be a better son.
I know I wasn't there for you, man. for all those years, but it's gonna be different from now on, and I'm gonna make you into a better person starting first thing tomorrow.
The next morning, it turns out this wasn't all talk, as Dylan has gotten a makeover. Like he went to the Gap, and the blandest part of the store turned into the Greed, or the Greedy, or whatever it is from Raggedy Ann, and then it threw up on him, and Brian himself is committed to being Father of the Year.
Oh, Dylan, you got a haircut. Aren't you handsome?
Wait a second.
Different than the last time I saw you.
Yeah, haircut.
Hey, that's funny. Is that foreshadowing? He takes Dylan to school where he actually applies himself and becomes an exemplary student.
Hey, Dylan. Have a great day at school.
Thanks, Dad. Hey, knock knock.
Who's there?
You're there.
I'll always be there, Dylan.
Ooh, it's so sickening. It's too cute. It's disgusting. Which I think it's cute, though, that Brian is actually acting like a father, but his behavior is starting to annoy the crap out of the other Griffins, like the D-bag he is deep down.
Dylan is very special to me, and didn't you just get a ticket for running a red light?
Hey, at least Lois never left her car running so Stewie could drive it.
6 years ago. And I got that ticket because I got distracted because you were leaning out the window.
They also aren't allowed to curse. Wow, is the FCC here? And Brian will not let the intrusive thoughts win.
What would you do if Dylan fell out a window?
Oh my god, I don't even want to think about that, Oh god, oh my god, oh no.
Brian, what would you do if Dylan was in a fire?
Oh my god.
Is that why Seth MacFarlane's child-free? I mean, I don't care, it's his choice. A lot of celebrities are child-free. Amir Talay is child-free. But, you know what, never mind, this is a joke. I'm not being serious nor trying to condemn people for how they choose to have families or not.
No, you do not understand. Until you have a child, you do not understand. Okay?
Jesus.
The guys try to tell Brian to lay off.
Now look, Brian, there's a difference between being concerned and being overprotective.
Now that's a dad talking. That is a dad talking, Quagmire.
Yeah, no offense, I don't think he's being overprotective, just plain old protective. Overprotective would be keeping Dylan on a short leash, and Dylan obviously rebelling. That's not what Brian's doing. Dylan has no problem. What Brian's doing is being a D-bag and a helicopter parent, which maybe they could have done some commentary on the latter, but because Brian's behavior is annoying them and they can't just tell him to lay off, I mean, granted they did try, they decide to call Tracy in order to get him to cool off. Wow, so the Griffins actually ruined it for him this time around. That's ironic. Normally it's the other way around. The next day, they invite Tracy over for lunch. But first, Brian has some choice words about the meal.
Lois, I do not want Dylan eating white bread. I will decide what is best for my child, alright?
Look, will you take it easy?
And I do not want to have this conversation in front of my son.
Which, I guess one thing they could have done was have Dylan try to tell his father he isn't a big fan of how he's been acting. Like I said, Brian is acting a bit like a helicopter parent and treating him like a child. Maybe he hates it too, but he wants his dad in his life, so he's trying very hard not to complain. Or he just thinks that's what parents do and doesn't realize it's out of the norm. Or maybe it's taking a lot out of him, we don't know. Peter brings Tracy to the kitchen in order to reintroduce her to Brian and Dylan, even if she doesn't want anything to do with them.
Hey, everybody! Look who's back to pick up his son!
This isn't The Price is Right. You said we were going to The Price is Right.
Peter, what the hell is this?
The Griffins come out and tell Brian that they're tired of his behavior and they want Dylan out. That way, Brian will go back to normal because clearly this isn't a feeling that's going to go away next week. But Brian refuses.
But that's only because I've truly connected with the one bit of flesh and blood that I have on this earth. And I have no intention of giving that up.
Still, Brian has one more critic, his son. Not because he thinks Brian is like a helicopter near a school bus full of children, but because he realizes he's basically outgrown Brian. He now has the chance to be better, not just for his sake, but for his mother's sake.
I'll always be grateful to you for turning my life around. But now, thanks to you, I finally have a chance to transform my mom's life in the same way you transformed mine.
Wow, that's a nice diplomatic way to say you don't like your father, Dill. But Brian accepts and they have a bittersweet parting of the ways.
I'm proud of you, Dylan. My life will never be the same for knowing you. Goodbye and good luck.
Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for the worst. Because no one mourns the wicked. Now, my main problem with Dylan going forward is that the show keeps insisting that Brian abandoned his son. Like, Tracy presented him to Brian and Brian threw Dylan in a river. Jerome is the new black, insists on it.
Well, who the hell are you to talk down to anyone? You failed college twice, which isn't nearly as bad as your failure as a father. How's that son of yours you never see?
No offense, Glenn, but Brian only had the one kid. You abandon enough children to start a child army. So in this instance, yeah, it's quantity versus quality. Or in Quagmire's mom, when Brian tries to tell Crystal off.
Come on, Quagmire, you're a grown man, responsible for his own choices. Seems kind of cowardly to blame someone else for your problems.
Brian abandoned his own son, by the way.
But that's not how abandonment works, and that's not what happened. To me, to abandon something, especially a child, you need to know it exists. And Brian had no clue he had a son. Sure, he had a role to play in Dylan's conception, but he had no clue Dylan existed because Tracy never told him. Meaning he wasn't being irresponsible because, as far as he knew, he had no responsibility to run away from. And again, he points out at the beginning, Tracy had all of the time in the world to tell him he had a son, or that perhaps she needed help, and for whatever reason, she never did.
I don't know, Brian. Don't you think you have a responsibility to your son?
Hey, Lois, I didn't even know I had a son until today. And besides, it's not like Tracy ever asked for my help.
And they never say it like it's something like Brian changed numbers or gave her a wrong number or covered his tracks really well. He legitimately had no clue, and for as much as I hate Brian, I can't really fault him for that feeling. I'm sorry. I guess you can argue they mean it when he abandoned Dylan after he found out he was a thug and everything. But to be fair, Dylan outright wanted nothing to do with his father. And the feeling was pretty mutual. Tracy forced Dylan to go see his father, so I don't think it's something like him saying he's going out for a pack of smokes and never comes home. Not to mention, after Brian rehabilitates Dylan, Dylan is the one who wants to go home, and there was no reason for the pair to not stay in contact. We saw how much Brian loved Dylan and vice versa. It's not out of the realm of plausibility for Dylan and Brian to have a relationship together. Just say it's off screen, like Dylan lives really far away and he can't always get to Quahog. Or for Dylan to keep him updated on events in his life. To me, I think it would have been more interesting if Dylan was the one to cut off Brian, and everybody assumed it was the other way. Like he said, he now has the tools to help his mother. Perhaps by helping his mother, he could take a look at his life and think, oh, maybe one reason my childhood was awful was because my father was never around. But like most abandoned kids, he doesn't know the whole story and he only sees who's there. He could think it's Brian's fault, even if, as I pointed out, it's pretty complicated, but perhaps he could wonder, would his father have tried to stay in his life if he knew Dylan was his son since the day he was born, or just abandon him to the wayside? Since I'm comparing Brian to Quagmire, maybe Brian could try to raise Dylan as best he could, and unlike Quagmire, because he lives with other people, he'd have a much better support system, at least until he finds out that child rearing is harder than he thought, and he could work that whole, like, joint custody thing out with Tracy. Another possibility could be that considering how downhill Brian became in the later seasons, maybe everything caught up to him and Dylan found out, either by his father's behavior on the news or his mother telling him a bunch of lies, and he could think his father is a horrible person and cut him off for his own good. Just saying, it would make Brian's A Bad Father a better episode, or a little more complicated. Ooh, we're finally getting to this, puppy, pun intended. Kitty is busy doing kitty things. Watch this. Okay, I'm done. And you know what? I'm not gonna do just the Dylan segments. I'm doing the whole episode. Many of you want me to pick this bone apart, and because it concerns the theme of bad, terrible people who deserve to lose their loved ones forever, let's discuss. The episode starts off with Peter and the guys on a hunting trip. Not a father-son hunting trip, just a hunting trip. While they're taking a break, Peter has his gun on his lap, which worries Quagmire.
No, I just want to make sure your safety's on.
Here, see Quagmire? Safety's on. Now this is a gun without a safety. Quite the difference, huh?
Damn it, Peter!
Oof, this is how you know it's the later seasons. If this were early on, or heck, even nowadays, we'd have an episode of Peter hunting and thinking he sees a deer, only for him to shoot Quagmire, because maybe he thinks Quagmire's an animal, which would make more sense. It would be an accident. See, the rest of the subplot involves Quagmire realizing Peter is a trash panda human being, and a dumb one at that, and it expects us to side with Peter even though it really shouldn't. But let's get to another trash panda, Brian, even though Brian's a dog. Brian is doing some writing, and doing it the same way you would with solving a complex quantum mechanical equation. Half-assed.
A writer who inherits a magic typewriter that writes for him. But then it turns out the typewriter is racist?
You know, if it weren't for the racist part, that would actually be a pretty cool story. But Rick and Morty, Brian, they fixed your premise. What if the typewriter writes successful stories that unfortunately also happen in your real life? Like murder mysteries where the housewife who's Brian's wife kills him.
And that is a good day. I earned some banana bread.
Well, I'm prone to doing the same thing. Brian, bad writer. Wait, no, I guess that's hypocritical. I can't say that. I'm not a fan of hypocrisy. After churning out a turd, Brian gets a call from Dylan, which, yay! We get a potential cool episode involving their father-son, but
Haven't heard you mention him in ages.
Yeah, I decided to step away from the whole situation. The last thing he needs is a father who's, sometimes there, sometimes not.
Oh, what a D-word. Everybody boo Brian right now. If you're in real life or at home, boo Brian, boo. Boo! Did you actually do it? Comment down below if you did. But keep this whole comment in mind going forward, because we're gonna talk about something important. Something that could have actually improved this episode. But we're gonna put a pin in that idea. But Stewie, who already has a crappy father, won't let Brian become one too, or more, even though he already is. So he picks up the phone and forces Brian to answer. Confront your mistake, Brian. Do it.
Well, when are you getting here?
Tuesday.
Oh, don't say Tuesday. I'm out at the project all day. Oh, hands-on, indispensable. They need me there.
But really, what are you going to be doing on a Tuesday? Wishing, wanting, and doing? Stewie further orders Brian to go out with Dylan to lunch, because what's the worst that could happen?
See, don't you feel better? You're gonna go to that lunch, you're gonna reconnect with your son, it'll be great.
I don't know, Stewie.
But before we get to that, let's get back to Peter.
Quagmire, what's with the cast? Did you hurt your arm after I shot you in the arm?
The shooting was the injury, Peter.
Wow, not only is he an idiot, but a jerk. And I thought Brian was bad. I guess with Brian, part of my hate, and part of the hate with most people towards him, is kind of like the whole Val versus Alistair debate, where to me, he's a more realistic person in the sense that we've probably all encountered a guy like Brian in real life several times over, and it sucks when we do. Peter's a cartoon character we can laugh at. Doesn't mean one's worse than the other, it's just one comes off as more obnoxious, I guess you could say. Joe tries to be diplomatic, but Quagmire unleashes another one of his reason you suck speeches, this time on Peter. And unlike the speech he gave to Brian, this time it's actually fitting, and not at all like the pot calling the kettle black.
Peter Griffin, you are an idiot. You can't even walk and chew gum at the same time.
Quagmire breaks off his friendship with Peter, and that is that. But back at the ranch, Brian is still on the couch, rather than at the restaurant with Dylan.
Yeah, Stewie, I've been thinking about it, and I haven't seen him in years, and at this point, I just don't see what could possibly be gained from me getting together with him.
Excuse me?
I just don't see what could possibly...
No, I heard it. I was just being dramatic for effect. What couldn't be gained from being with your own child? Love, acceptance, the ability to have a legacy, be a teacher, somebody to look up to you... Pride, I don't know. I wonder what could be gained. Besides, you saw how Dylan was at the end of former Life of Brian. I'm sure he's a first gen because Brian didn't graduate graduate from Brown because of some stupid crap about his honor, idiot. But this kid could go on to do such great things, especially if he had his father around to guide him and love him and protect him in a non-weird way. Have you ever heard the saying that every child deserves a parent, but not every parent deserves a child? I think this applies here. Almost as if on cue, Brian finds out that Dylan is starring in a new show called Parent Boppers, a Disney sitcom about a group of teen detectives, which for plot reasons is being filmed in Quahog. I know some people complain, but they filmed the Jolly Farm reboot in Quahog, so it's not a stretch for Quahog to have a studio. Maybe it's a little weird because it's Disney, so they would probably have stuff in Orlando or LA, but Plus, Rhode Island tax credits are up to $5 million, so another reason for them to come to town. And for all we know, considering how Dylan comes from Quahog, or I guess likely near there, maybe they added that aspect to his character or set the show there.
Brian, did you hear that? Your son's gonna be a TV star. Brian?
He's off to lunch, Meg.
Oh, now he cares. He goes to the restaurant where he not so subtly tells Dylan that he wants a role on the new show, and he says that he would be around Dylan a lot more often, to which Dylan agrees, in order to get him a role as a writer.
It's funny how life turns out, isn't it? You remember that weekend we watched TV together? Boy, little did I know how much that was going to rub off.
Now, I know many of you want me to talk about the deleted scenes, and so I shall. Now, according to the deleted scenes, because it's like a totally different episode if you watch them, things were going to progress, again, really differently. And I'm sorry if it's more me talking, not showing clips like usual. I wasn't really able to find footage of them, or at least usable footage, depending on how this video goes. So the way it would have originally worked was Dylan saying he wants Brian in his life. He wants his father. But he doesn't want to get hurt again, as Brian promised to be in his life, and then disappeared again, meaning he's confused and how does he proceed. Brian apologizes for that and says that he wishes for a chance to reconnect, to which Dylan agrees. Afterwards, they spend time together and have a really great day, like going to the store to buy some barbecue mesquite and then go get some ice cream. However, their day is cut short when Dylan announces he has to go to set, because he has to go to work, and Brian offers to accompany him. That said, Brian congratulates Dylan on his scene, but says that the writing is atrocious, and it's not doing Dylan any favors as an actor. And because nepotism is a thing in Hollywood, and how Brian just can't wait to be king, Brian says that Dylan should exploit this, and turn the former into a reverse nepo baby, to which Dylan agrees, and that gets him in the writer's room. Now, I know many fans wish that these deleted scenes were put back in, as they argue it makes Brian come off as a more loving parent who sadly lost his way, but I'd argue it makes him look just as bad, if not more so, as he's openly manipulating Dylan's insecurities to further his own career. Like when he openly brags to Peter and Chris at the store that Dylan is going to be on a TV show, and not like, wow, look at my son, he's gonna be on a TV show, I'm so proud of him, but more like, guys, I got a celebrity son. I'm gonna be rich one day. What about you? I think the only thing it really does is make Dylan look less like an idiot, as the point is made in the restaurant scene that he does have daddy issues, so I feel what he believes to be a genuine confession would probably be enough for him, and he could probably think, oh, okay, this time he's gonna be there and he's gonna do the right thing. To me, it would have been better if Brian did not see the news broadcast, only Stewie did, and Brian just went to the restaurant because he was forced to. And then he made the whole honest speech that he actually does want to be there for his son, and actually wants to make up for lost time, realizing being a father was the best thing to happen to him. Hints could be dropped to Brian that Dylan is going to be a celebrity, or at least on a TV show, and then after ice cream when Dylan says, Dad, I gotta go, I need to get to set. Wait, what are you talking about? Well, I'm on a TV show. You didn't hear about that? No, but wow, that's amazing. I got another creative in the family. Is it okay okay if I come with you and watch you film? Then at the set, Brian could be like, you're really filming this? The writing is atrocious. Well, it's not really up to me. I'm not really a writer. Hey, what if I do it? I mean, I'm a writer. I could be on the inside fighting for you and vouching for you. Just saying, I know people say stuff like, oh, Brian changed his mind. He wasn't always going to use Dylan as a meal ticket, but it's very easy to read what he's doing as manipulative. If they didn't have Brian go to the restaurant after learning about the new TV role and just made him do it naturally, I think things would have flowed a lot more better, and it would be more of a tragedy like they were trying to present. Like Brian tried so hard to be a good father, to finally be there for Dylan, and yet he was selfish in the end. And while people say probably the biggest reason they cut those scenes was to make Brian seem more like a jerk, because Brian's a bad father is the title, I think another reason, probably the likeliest reason, was time constraints, all things considered. Not saying I don't think making Brian seem more like a villain wasn't in the cards, but at the same time, these whole scenes were way longer than what we got. So I feel like they probably just tried to compress it as best they could. But back to Peter. At the bar, Peter finds that Quagmire basically banned him from his own hangout spot because he sucks.
Well, looks like it's just you and me, Shadow.
Burn! And Peter can't just sit at another spot for some reason. Who is he, Sheldon? But as is common in all trios, when two of them argue, the other one is told to pick a side, because they can't just be a neutral party or the party who helps them through their problems, and Joe is told to choose, or else something will happen probably.
Joe, I can scream your name real loud. Joe! 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 Joe!
I can yell it louder. Joe! Joe! Joe!
Joe! Joe!
And he chooses Quagmire because Quagmire never made fun of him for being in a wheelchair, or denied him and his fellow wheelchair user friends entrance into a restaurant based on that merit.
So I choose Quagmire.
What? Second!
I'm sorry, Peter. It's just that Quagmire's been there for me in some pretty dark days, and he's been a wonderful godfather to Susie.
Well, that or he was put on the spot, I can see that too. But before we get to that, Brian is introduced to the other members of the writer's room.
No, guys, come on. Where's the Stwistusion? Really? Really? I'm the only guy here who's heard of that. Stakes, twists, conclusion.
Oh my god, he would totally be that one guy co-worker who steals credit from a female co-worker. If it makes you feel any better, apparently this is the one way Brian is not like Seth, because apparently Seth is on good terms with his writers, as far as I can guess. I'm just saying, he actually went to the strikes, they still talk about him, he's still in contact with them. That's a lot more than, say, Butch Hartman. But it feels like Brian forgets he's writing a sitcom, you know, for kids on the Disney Channel. Like, I know Disney's done some adult stuff, but Brian, this isn't a serious moving drama like what I learned on Jefferson Street.
Parents are lame. Hold on, other kids. Sometimes I just want to put this gun in my mouth.
Your line is, "That's right, Cameron."
I know. My dad wrote that one for me.
Oh, and I just love how he talks down to the writers who actually have experience in television, probably way more than him.
Again with this? Yesterday you had Dakota give herself an abdomen punch abortion during her volleyball tournament.
Hey, 7th grade can be hell.
Because he never watched that episode of BoJack Horseman where Diane learned that a work meant to entertain people and make them laugh was just as valid as a work meant to inform them and make them feel emotion. And on top of that, I think another reason why Brian cannot be a good writer is he doesn't know his audience, or he doesn't care, or he just doesn't write with an audience in mind besides himself, or he thinks they're all idiots. Like, okay, it's one thing to insert adult jokes into a show, especially a kid's show. I mean, so long as they aren't too risque. And from what we see, Dylan and presumably the rest of his co-stars are legal adults, so again, it's fine. But Brian acts like Brian and scoots all over the sitcom. And again, I'm not opposed to a sitcom, especially a kid's sitcom, talking about adult topics or doing very special episodes, because it's a sign they understand their audience and treat them like equals. And besides, kids can learn through any medium. But that's not what Brian's doing. And what makes it worse this time around is that Brian's terrible actions in the writer's room aren't just affecting him. they're affecting his son, whose only real crime was wanting his father back in his life and being too naive for his own good. Remember, television is a career that lives and thrives off of biases and networking. How you seem to other people, who you know, who you're nice to. And one reason many child stars fail is because of their parents, even if they have all of the talent in the world. Because if the producers can't deal with the on-set guardian, who's gonna be there all day, every day, would they really be willing to put up with it for the sake of a child who 9 times out of 10 they could just as easily replace? In fact, that was one reason why Macaulay Culkin's career went downhill. Studios stopped hiring him because they didn't want to put up with his father, who also happened to be his manager. Like when they made Harry Potter, they made a point to specifically not use stage parents or put all of the parents in a room where they could just hang out away from the directors and the producers. But if it makes you feel any better, most stage parents aren't like that because, again, that's the one way you get roles, and 2, you don't want to be like extreme. So to further himself, Brian basically crippled Dylan's career or any future prospects. Say what you want about Tracy, at least she didn't turn Dylan into a meal ticket, unless maybe Dylan's doing all of this to help her. Just saying, I could totally see that speech from the end of Former Life of Brian playing a role, which is weird, like she never gets mentioned here or anything. Seriously? Is it any wonder that Brian gets fired? He tries to go appeal to Dylan, who starts to suspect, oh my goodness, my deadbeat father, who was never there for me, is now paying attention to me because I got the opportunity of a lifetime and he can easily profit off of it. As not only did Brian steal a bunch of Diet Cokes, but he might potentially, maybe, I don't know, be a terrible father.
Are we all getting those backpacks with the name of the show on them?
You know what, Dad? I'm starting to think that you've just been using me to advance your career. God, you're a terrible father.
Okay, I don't want to make this joke because a lot of other YouTubers have done it, but I guess I have to. Dill, that's not the title of the episode. Your complaints are now only mostly of merit.
My God, he's right. I am a terrible father.
What?
I am a terrible father.
Oh my goodness, maybe there is a God in this world. I mean, we know there is one in Brian's world. He's just too stubborn to admit it. I mean, Brian admitted to his wrongdoings this time around, and my cell phone still worked when it fell into the sink a few days ago. It's a miracle! But then again, Brian did get revenge on the crew and likely also his son by stealing their craft service table. Ugh, a gal has to wonder. But back to Peter. Joe has chosen him, yada yada yada, and Peter does himself no favors by doing horrible, illegal things to Susie under the pretense of playing with her.
I think it's best if you leave.
That and what he did to those art gallery pictures, how is it that Chris is on the offender registry and also chemically castrated and not him? And Brian himself is wallowing in his own self-pity. And it's so much fun to soak up his schadenfreude like a makeup sponge.
I think being a paid writer again just went to my head. I mean, it's like Dylan just held a mirror up to me and I could finally see how poorly I'd been treating him.
But none of that crap happened, except for the deleted scenes. I guess they do have some merit. I am willing to admit when I'm wrong, unlike Brian. Brian tries to text Dylan a Sowie, which strangely doesn't work. Oh my goodness. So Stewie suggests he go down to the studio and tell him how he feels.
Sorry, Brian. Dylan says he doesn't want to see you anymore. We're not allowed to let you in.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry too.
For what?
For this!
Wow, how in the world did that not work? I mean, it's not like Brian was rude to the producers. He's still my beating heart. Since Brian can't just call Tracy or go to Dylan's house because he knows where he lives and everything, Stewie says that he'll get on the set himself via his Zach Sawyer disguise and win a bit part.
I'm Zach Sawyer. Say when. Acting, singing, pop, classical, light opera, Italian, dancing, classical.
On set, he tells Dylan via a scene that he should give his father one more chance.
But how do I know he won't just hurt me again?
You don't. You never know that. But isn't taking a risk better than not having a dad?
Deep breath. Have you ever heard of the saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me? This applies here too. Well, a lot of sayings in this video.
I'm talking about your dad, DJ. He sent me here with a message. He said he can't believe he was so selfish.
Brian didn't do any of that. I hate how they're treating this. He didn't try to get out of work to go to Dylan's baseball game and couldn't, or disagreed with Dylan about going to a friend's house. He went into Dylan's life this time around with the express purpose of profiting off of him, and outright said he only wanted something to gain from Dylan. These were his exact words.
I just don't see what could possibly be gained from me getting together with him.
It's like Dylan was a fancy car he got stuck with he didn't feel like fixing. And honestly, things were better for Dylan when Brian was not in his life, especially after former life of Brian. Guys, Dylan isn't the one who needs to improve, it's Brian. It sucks more here because of what the show has done in the past. Like, they had a chance to correct their mistake and they still, went in this whole terrible pattern. Oh, you should remain an abuse victim if it makes your abusers happy. Oh, if you're an abuse victim and you don't leave the abuser, it's your fault that this is happening to you. Oh, if your parent is a D word and they apologize despite not doing anything to improve or show that they love you, you should take them back because they're blood. Look, I'm sorry, but you don't have an obligation to somebody toxic or somebody you barely know just because you're related to them by blood. But Dylan thinks it over and agrees.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
You're damn right I am.
I'm so angry and need something to calm me down. Well, Kitty, I mean, Peter did offer Quagmire the chance to give him karma. That won't work, Catherine. We know that.
Hand me the gun, Peter.
I passed the test? But just the fact that I would make the offer is so meaningful to you.
Your offer means nothing, Peter.
Hallelujah! In the park, Brian meets with Dylan, where Dylan once again says that he's willing to give his father a chance.
If you'll give me a chance, I'd like to try to change that.
I'd like that too, Dad.
And in a typical Family Guy fashion, they do that stupid, dramatic, slow head tilt smile eye, then Dylan does it, and they lean in and do the hug thing. It's weird. And they make up, and Dylan never appears again because Brian probably abandoned him and forgot about his name the second he left the park. Or his show got canceled. But despite this, I'm surprised he never comes back. With other side characters in Brian's life, it makes sense. For example, Jillian is voiced by Drew Barrymore. She's expensive, and to my knowledge, don't quote me on this, I don't want to spread any misinformation, her and Seth had a falling out. But Dylan could easily come back when you really think about it. He's voiced by Seth Green, one of the main cast members after all. He could easily be a recurring character, perhaps come back during the holidays or stuff like that. I mean, remember Thanksgiving? They literally had Ida there, why couldn't Dylan be there? But as for Brian's bad father, I think one reason these Family Guy type episodes don't work is they don't seem ironic. See, one reason I don't mind when, say, Klaus is the glue and the lightning rod is because, well, besides him bringing some of the torment onto himself, the tone of the episode made it clear it was a joke, so it was easier to laugh at. And it lets the audience know they aren't being serious and you shouldn't take from them. With Family Guy, they don't do it, or they don't separate the drama and the comedy well enough to let me know it's a joke. On top of not doing research or getting their info wrong, it makes the episodes come off as tone deaf. And what really sucks is, like I said above, a lot of these are easily salvageable. Maybe Family Guy really was trying to write bad episodes on purpose just to get canceled. I don't know. Anyhow, bye.
Where are you headed?
Wherever I'm needed.
No, it does not work like that. I need to put address in machine.
Okay, I don't know the address.
I take you airport.
Okay.